Doomfist is a hero that began just as a name and a gauntlet. The supervillain of the Overwatch universe that was brewing behind the scenes, just waiting to strike. Over a prolonged period and a mysterious attack on Numbani, Doomfist was revealed to the world as Overwatch's 25th hero. The Doomfist we all know today is not the same as when he was first released. There were many adjustments to his kit over the years that have altered his playstyle and competitive viability. Today, we're going to tell the story about how a buggy melee brawler introduced into an FPS was transformed, and became one of the heroes that ushered in the infamous era of GOATs. In the beginning, Chris Metzen offered Doomfist's name as just a random villain name whilst the Overwatch team were brainstorming villains for their series. Becoming attached to the name, the team drew up an initial concept for the character, illustrating him with a hulking fist weapon that can be likened to the Infinity Gauntlet. After that, he appeared in Overwatch's initial cinematic trailer, in which the gauntlet was showcased. Doomfist's future was set in stone. Presumably, he would become a bigger part of the story.
That's Doomfist's gauntlet!
But it wasn't clear when. After the trailer, there was a radio silence on the topic of Doomfist. Nobody knew when he would arrive or even if he would be mentioned again, until a cryptic attack was reported in Numbani Airport, bearing what would become the signature Doomfist crater on the wall. Shortly after, it was revealed that Doomfist would become the 25th hero, and a development update was posted by the Overwatch team confirming it.
This is a particularly great one. I think this is the one that you guys have been waiting for. We're here to finally talk about Doomfist.
His moveset was reminiscent of classic fighting game styles. In fact, his entire kit was a love letter to the fighting game genre, bringing string combos and hand-to-hand combat into a first-person shooter. Upon release, it became clear quite quickly that Doomfist was far from polished, with moves being able to miss entirely yet still register as a hit, being able to kill enemies that were hidden behind cover, and his slam ability failing entirely, causing frustration from both Doomfist players themselves and those on the receiving end.
Yeah, no, it's like, he doesn't even have to try. This character is fucking stupid, dude. I hate this character.
The community wanted the development team to take another look at the broken hitboxes and various bugs that plague the character. As a public outcry, a Reddit thread was created indexing dozens of ongoing bugs featured within the character. The list was fairly extensive. Continuously flowing from move to move and inducing a fluidity to your movement is paramount to playing Doomfist effectively. However, many of these bugs stopped him short from achieving success. From punches completely missing enemies, punching invisible walls, enemies sliding off walls without taking damage, to phasing through Genji's dash and causing it to miss entirely. These are the frustrations that many had to deal with upon release. However, everything mentioned thus far is only relating to his signature punch ability. His slam, on the other hand, had its own myriad of issues, including failing to register any damage at all, to entirely canceling the move, yet still incurring a cooldown. His uppercut was not safe from bugs either, or acting as if Doomfist had collided with a non-existent ceiling, and his ultimate ability, Meteor Strike, had a tendency to jump to a nearby ledge, causing it to miss entirely too. But bugs aside, when Doomfist was functioning as a playable hero, players quickly began to realize his potential as a one-shot king. Players realized that uppercutting an enemy player would stick them in an inescapable trajectory, while stunning them at the same time. This allowed the Doomfist player to line up a quick 2-tap headshot and escape with an airborne rocket punch. 7 months later, a balance patch nerfing his primary fire would be released, weakening his fire from 11 damage to 6. Whilst the number of bullets fired was increased, it softened the blow as the area of impact was spread out. However, his uppercut stunlock technique was still prevalent, and had absolutely zero counter since the affected character was locked in the trajectory for 3 full seconds. On December 11th, 2018, a patch was submitted that reduced this number to 0.6 seconds, allowing a breakpoint that gave certain characters without mobility to escape. This change, while feeling better for the poor soul being comboed, left Doomfist feeling worse to play, as combos were becoming increasingly more difficult to weave together. On top of this, within the same patch, Seismic Slam no longer stunlocked the enemy in Doomfist's view, while also having its maximum range reduced 5 meters, which proved to be quite a large nerf to his overall mobility. With his signature ability untouched thus far, the balance team took another look at the charge time of his rocket punch, increasing the maximum charge time from 1 to 1.4 seconds. At this point, it became clear that balancing this character meant making the character feel worse to play, while not rewarding the skill or understanding of the character's kit. Leaving Doomfist's damage values untouched since early 2018, various cooldown adjustments and ability tweaks let the character slip into a different form of clunkiness. His maps could be rocket punched, and the momentum would carry Doomfist to unintended locations. This created a new technique which allowed Doomfist to engage from unorthodox and unexpected angles. Still being discovered today, many of these rollouts depend on pixel-perfect accuracy, and require hours of practice to perfect, but can easily result in a kill if executed well. Despite Doomfist's many shortcomings and volatile nature, he did eventually fall into various compositional metas. On September 1st, 2018, Season 12 was when Doomfist began to shine for the first time. The brutal brawler would usher in the beginning of what was then referred to as Doom Goats. Being played alongside Brigitte, these two became the most dominant heroes throughout the entirety of Season 12, all three enemy tanks, while receiving bubbles from his friendly Zarya. Thanks to Doomfist, the era of double sniper had ended, thanks to his ability to conquer high ground easily and one-shot any squishy, most notably Hanzo and Widowmaker. Additionally, Dive was no longer run, since Brigitte was a direct counter to Tracer, which worked out well for Doomfist since his weak spot was disrupting high mobility tanks such as Winston.
For a while, I thought Doomfist wasn't meta. What happened? So here's what basically happened. Doomfist was always a god tier versus tanks, but not Dive. And then Dive fell out of the meta, like Tracer Genji in particular, as a combo together. And people started using Tracer Widow a lot more. And then Tracer fell out of the meta once Brigitte was implemented. And once Brigitte was implemented, Deathball comps became really popular, which are tank-based, right? They're tanks, they Deathball. It's usually Lucio plus Brigitte plus tanks is the typical like tank comp. It's tanks Overwatch. What does Doomfist do? He fucking punches you into the ground, and he gets 1 billion HP every time he hits something, so he can chain CC the tanks and then not die. And he can also one-shot supports.
Essentially acting as a fourth tank, Doomfist could claim space utilizing his shield generation and high mobility to displace the frontline permanently, or threaten the backline while his own frontline closes in. Heralding in the very composition that replaced him, Season 13 rolled around in November, and Lucio replaced Doomfist in the meta we know today as Goats. Favoring the speed boost over a one-shot bot, Goats quickly took over as the one and only composition to run for 4 subsequent seasons, albeit Doomfist was still run sparingly in place of one of the supports. Skipping forward to November 2019, Season 18 had begun shortly after Rollcube Beta ran for a few weeks. During that time, Sigma was released, who had begun to usher in the age of Double Barrier. Understanding Doomfist's kit, it becomes apparent that the character is unthwarted by any form of barrier, easily phasing in and out to pick enemies off. By the time Rollcube Beta had ended and Season 18 had officially began, Orisa and Sigma continued to be must picks, so Doomfist was run alongside Reaper, who may as well be a melee ranged combatant as well. Support-wise, Moira and Lucio were run for their incredible mobility and consistent AoE healing. On top of this, one well-placed Moira orb could sustain a diving Doomfist long enough to claim and pick and escape to freedom. As the villain of the Overwatch series, it's a perfect fit that he is both loved and hated by the community. Hard to pick up and even harder to master, he is a blast to watch when played optimally, and equally as annoying to play against. If properly supported, Doomfist will wipe a team if left unchecked, and whether through bugs or unintended rollouts, he remains an interesting and ever-changing hero to this day. When do you think is the next time we'll see Doomfist in the spotlight? Do you think he deserves further nerfs or buffs? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
This video is made possible thanks to our wonderful patrons. Massive thank you to everyone on this list, and shout out to Jason, B, Brendan, QB, Foxy, Mauve, Sierra, Shampoo, Weeaboo, and Spartacus for being platinum supporters. And an extra special shout out to Steven, Noodles, and Marco for being diamond supporters. Thank you all, and happy holidays. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, link in the description. If you want to support our channel and get info on unreleased videos, check out our Patreon. If you want to help us out in a different way, leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell to stay up to date is also appreciated. My name is Jonah, thanks for watching.